close call. We're gonna open up this video. It's gonna be a little bit of a different video today. More of what's been done to the car. I get a lot of questions in most of my videos. What do I have? What exhaust do I have? And all that stuff. I figure I will make a video that will touch on all those points or questions that I get. But let's get started. So the main question I get, and it's mainly from my early videos, is what kind of exhaust and what kind of bypass valve or blow-off valve I have. Which, if you see those videos, basically I just clip my microphone right on the filter box, and that's where I get most of the sound. As far as the exhaust, is the stock exhaust, which is the Resonator Delete. I personally believe that it doesn't need more than that. Might be because I'm older, might be because I'm not too much into super loud cars and attracted a lot of attention. Shout out to that titanium with the modified exhaust. I have a friend that has I believe Motul exhaust or Boral, I'm not even sure now, and his sounds really nice, but for the price of how much you're paying for the aftermarket exhaust, I don't think it's worth it. I will personally put that money into something else, like a Tune, maybe the Intercooler in Tune if you're just starting with the ST. I'm gonna have to change my exhaust just because I have a lot of exhaust leaks. I have a lot of holes on my pipes. Why do I have those holes? I have no clue. All I know is I have about 3 of them. So at some point I'm gonna have to change, either fix those holes or change the exhaust. I will much rather change the exhaust instead of just patching the pipe until basically it's Swiss cheese, but that's just me. Aside from that, I did have a Boomba blow-off valve for, I want to say, like a good 6 to 9 months. I had a bad experience with it. It will never work properly. I mean, it would for like a good month, and then after that it starts like leaking air, or the O-rings come off. If I have some pictures, I'll put those on. The O-ring got chewed up. It came off actually on one of my canyon runs, and not fun to have to deal with that. It sounds cool, I liked it, but if you're into that, I mean, I can't really recommend Boomba just because I had like a bad experience with them. Nice. I actually contacted them about 3-4 times for that issue, and the first few times they were like, oh yeah, no problem, send it to us and then we'll fix it, send it back to you. Have in mind, each time I had to send the blow-off valve, it was $15 in shipping. So, you know, $30 just to get this thing fixed on top of what I already paid the original price. And then by the 3rd time, they were trying to blame me, that it was my fault, that I didn't know how I was installing it, and I'm like, I'm basically an expert of putting it on and off just because of how many times I had to fix it. After that, after the 3rd time, when they tried to blame it on me and they're like, yeah, this is the last time we're going to fix it because there's nothing wrong with it, I decided to not even bother. Didn't send it back to them. I still have it in a box. I'm just not even going to bother with it. So that's my experience with that. For now, I'm a full stage 3 Stratified Tune. So if you don't know the stages of Stratified, stage 3, basically full bolt-ons, intercooler, downpipe, and I don't have an exhaust, but I guess that counts in it, and then an air filter. But this stock air filter is rated for about 500 horsepower, so why would I change that? I just kept it as is. I have, like I said, intercooler from Depo, 100 cell downpipe from Depo as well. Depo Racing. It was like $150, $180. I don't remember. All I know is super cheap. Highly recommend their intercooler. It's not the easiest thing to install, but my buddy also just got has an SC3. He just got the Motul intercooler, and just based on his experience, Depo, it looks the same. Well, I mean, about the same. He got the black one from Motul, but looks about the same. Performs, I want to say, about the same. Probably the Motul is going to be a little bit better because they work with 4, or they're certified by 4 for their parts. But it was a lot easier, like 100 times easier, just based on what he told me, you know, and how he did it and all that stuff. So if you're getting into the STs, this is your first car that you're modding, highly recommend getting a Depo intercooler, or just any intercooler really, because after the first, second pull, kind of dies down. But if you do any spirited driving, like myself, I go to the canyons almost every weekend. I noticed it big time. For the most part, 10-15 minutes into my driving, car was done. Not enough power. Everybody leaves me behind. They still do, because low horsepower car. But now that I have the intercooler and on top of that the tune, now I can tell the difference. I have power all the way through. My latest videos, I keep going past where we usually stop, just because like it's so much fun to drive and I have all the power available at all times. After that, all I did was tires. I believe my first set was Federal RRs, and those are 200s redware, super sticky, super noisy, but they really stick the car to the ground very well, and that changed how I view the car, how I even drove the car, because it gives you more confidence to go into corners and knowing that your car will grip. Then after the tires, what I did was, well, sticking with the tires, pun intended. Now I'm on Sumitomo Z5s, which is, according to the guys that installed it for me, Japanese branded tire. It's 320. It used to be 310, but now the C3s were 310. Now that I have C5s all corners, it's 320. Great street tire. They grip very well. Obviously, nothing compared to, you know, Michelin's and all those high-end tire manufacturers, but for the price, it's an amazing tire. Can't complain. Definitely get to have, or definitely need to get some heat on them before you even try anything. Great grip. Really quiet, as you can hear right now. Just have the AC on, doing, you know, normal speeds on the highway. Not loud at all. You can hear some, but I think that's just my car, or just the car basically not having enough sound deadening. But great tires. And then after the tires, what I decided to do was, I know this is like the fun part of the car, and this is what most people that review the car like. Well, are you gonna go or not? No. But what a lot of people rave about this car is like how happy the rear end gets when you're like really on it, which is true. It's awesome being able to like bring the car around. Makes you almost feel like you're driving a rear-wheel drive car. However, when I'm trying to drive in the canyons, the last thing I want is from a rear end to step out. That's at the beginning what stopped me a lot of the times from like trying to push it any harder than what I feel comfortable with, which you should never do anyways. You should not try to overdo it and go over your boundaries, you know, but just slow and steady. Or, you know, the famous off-throttle mid-corner oversteer, which still kind of happens, but it's way more manageable after I installed the rear sway bar. I have an Fswerks. I have a lot of Fswerks things on this car. I have it on the stiffest setting, which is a 25mm sway bar, stiffest setting. Right away, the rear end was stable. It's still, like I said, steps out, but it's way more manageable. It's more like, oh, you know what? Here comes the rear end around you, instead of like, oh, just like that, the rear end, you're kind of doing this. Now this one, you know when it's going to happen because you're going a little too fast or you just threw it a little too hard. So I like that. I did not do the end links because I didn't need them. I know I read a lot of people saying like, oh, my end links went bad. Like I'm 1,000 miles after I put my sway bar. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I don't know, however you want to see it, I haven't had that issue. I keep an eye on them every single time I do anything to the car. They look fine. At some point I will change them once I go full coils. I have the rear strut bar. That actually I almost didn't feel the difference right away versus the sway bar, because the sway bar, first thing you put it on and you put it on the stiffest setting, you take a turn and you just feel the rear so planted. But because I already had that by the time I put the strut bar on, the strut bar kind of was not that much of a difference, and I was like, well, maybe, you know, this was not a great purchase. But then I took it to the canyons and the rear felt even more planted than before, and you prevented that, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but the body roll of the car trying to step over at the rear, which is great. So that gave me more confidence. I also have the Fswerks short shift plates, which to me I love. I want to get an arm, but the arms are a little bit overpriced in my opinion, and it's like I already have the plate, so why even bother? I do know that everybody says it's like night and day difference. Again, my buddy with the SC3, shout out Eric, he has the arm, I forget from who, I'm pretty sure Motul, because his car is basically almost looked like a sponsored Motul car, but he has the shorter arm. It felt very similar. Granted, it did feel smoother, but yet his car is a lot, well, it's not newer because it's the same year as mine, but it has a lot less miles. So, you know, I have a lot of wear. I have 83,000 miles in this car, so he is not even at 20,000. So to me, it felt about the same. I didn't think that I needed it. It's not something like, oh man, I gotta go home and order this now. It was like, yeah, it feels definitely better, but is it, you know, that much more better? Not to me. It's been working fine. It's been working great. I do check it on it every now and then. At the beginning, I was checking on it at all times. Oh, gotta get going. At the beginning, I was checking on it all of the time because I was freaking out because everybody's saying, yeah, careful with the plate, it's gonna come off or it's gonna get loose. I installed it according to the instructions from Fswerks. Nothing wrong with it. What else do I have? I have the Cobb shift knob just because I have an SD1, obviously, as you can see. The stock shift knob from Ford I had for like 2-3 years. And man, I don't know why I went that long with that shift knob. It has this awkward shape at the front, almost like it's an automatic shifter. And I dealt with it for a long time. I kept going into the wrong gears because I have huge hands compared to the access port here. And I just didn't know how to hold it. Like there was not one spot that was like a comfortable spot for me to grab onto. I switched to the Cobb shift knob. It's just a regular cue ball shape. Perfect. It's not a weighted shift knob, so a lot of people want the weighted shift knob to like help the throws get in gear a lot easier, so you don't have that like window or wall that you can get past. It was a bad idea coming this way, but to me this is perfect. Loved it. I don't think I'm going to change it unless I see something like a lot nicer. Also, I have now the H&R springs, the lowering springs. They lowered me, I believe, about 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 at the front, and 1.5 inches at the rears. It was one of those things that I put off for a long time. I wanted to get coils, but to save up for coils would have taken forever. Man, I wasn't too sold on the coils. Like, I've been in cars out in the canyons with the coils, and they do feel amazing. They feel so much better. But at the same time, I didn't know that I wanted to sacrifice that ride quality that I had, because at the end of the day, I drive this thing every single day. But one thing I do gotta complain about, ride is a little bit bouncy. So you won't notice it like right now. Like right now I'm going fine, but if I go any fast and there's like a little undulation or those little dips over the bridges, I am bouncing. And it's bouncing, and I can tell this suspension is struggling a lot, just because of I still have the stock shocks. So obviously that's gonna not match perfectly on the H&R springs. Pamphlet they give you when you buy the springs, it says that like it's, you know, developed, so you can keep the same shocks. Yeah, you can. They're not gonna be any better. Like I said in the last video, now that I have the springs, it kind of makes me not want to get coils anymore, because as much as I say they are bouncy, your shocks are gonna wear out. It's a lot more stable. It's for sure a lot more stable, especially when throwing it onto the hard corners and you're holding the speed at a corner. It's just planted. It's no longer, you know, if you're making a left, the left side does not want to come off because of all the compression and stuff. It's like flat. Aside from the springs, what else do I have? I have Hog HPS pads at the front, and I have the AutoZone Special still at the back. I forgot all about it. I haven't had any issues, so I left them. I know I said I was going to change them right away, like within the week, but life gets in the way. I get lazy, whatever the excuse is, and I just left them. And they've been doing okay. I still have to check them, but no complaints, no noise, no anything. For the rotors, I have R1 Racing slotted rotor. They've been great. They're actually a local company to me right here in I think it's the Rotors, which I just drove past, and they're great. At the beginning I wasn't so sure. I was like, I don't feel the difference, but then the more I drove it, I was like, well, actually that's a great thing that I don't feel the difference, because it means they're just as good as OEs. But then I got the Motul RBF 400 high temperature brake fluid, and that's when I saw a better difference, and obviously it had to do with the fluid, not with the rotors, but I still think that that did help. Also, I have the Fswerks steel braided lines. Those made a huge difference. Those kept my pressure the same throughout. Didn't matter what I was doing. It didn't matter if I'm driving like this or if I was driving in the canyons, and you know, it's super hot out there sometimes, and the temperature obviously is going to change how your brake feels, because you know, when you're on the rubber lines, they expand, so your pressure is almost gone. Sometimes I would have to step it all the way down, and at that point I would just get off of it, pull over for like 15-20 minutes, wait for everything to cool down, and then get back on it. Now I don't have to do that unless I want to, which is kind of the goal I have for this car, was for me to be able to enjoy it in the canyons, just go up, go crazy, as crazy as I want to get, or just cruise, whatever it is, and not have to worry about like, well, you know, I have to take it easy because my brakes are not going to hold up. Now I'm at that point where like I can just go up, hang out, you know, or not even hang out, just turn around and you know, come down and not have to worry about anything. And we're gonna make a U-turn into all that traffic here. Oh, when I get past Compton. So yeah, that's basically what I have as far as the brakes go. Very satisfied, very happy. The only thing I do want to say to people is, don't go out there and buying high heat or high temperature brake fluid and not making your changes as soon as you have to, because this is not like the regular brake fluid that, you know, you can do for like a year, 2 years, however long, depending on how you drive it too, because this fluid you have to change it like almost every 3 months, I believe, and I'm doing it about 6 months. I'm giving it a little bit longer because the first time I did it at 3 months, I wasn't driving as much on the canyons, so I still saw some life left on the fluid. Yeah, just have that in mind. Anytime you do an upgrade, think about what is it that you want to do with the car. Is it going to be a dedicated track car? Is it going to be mainly autocross, or are you going to be driving it a lot on the street and you're sacrificing that comfort for, you know, being a little bit faster when it really, you don't need to be that little bit faster. So always have in mind what you want to do with your car. Always have in mind, you know, is it worth it? I know that the cloud, everybody wants to get, like, yeah, have this thing. Like, for example, my seat took me a long time to decide that I wanted the seat. I always knew that the ST1 seats, I did not fit in them, but I was like, do I really want to get into a bucket seat, or into swap out the seats for the ST3s or ST2? And I already sat in those and I knew I didn't fit. So I was thinking, like, do I really want to give up my comfort for just being able to fit in a seat that's going to hold me, just so I can go on the weekends and have fun, and then the rest of the week I'm miserable? So that took me a long time to decide. And that's the other thing I have too, the NRG FRP or FR 301 large seat. I went off of their website measurements. I kind of measured myself and I was like, well, it's going to be a little snug, but I can make it work. So far, so good. It holds me in place. There you go. But yeah, this seat, I highly recommend it. I have the planted seat bracket, which really, as the name suggests, plants you really low to the seat, or to the car. I have like about that much at the front of the car between the bracket and the bottom of the seat, like literally drops you to the floor. Something that I was looking forward to, because on the other seat, I know you have the height adjustability, but I'm 6'4", Didn't matter how much adjustability that thing had, I did not fit in it, and I was too tall for it. I was literally like hitting this all the time. Go over a speed bump, I hate it. I go over, you know, sometimes there's like little bumps over the bridges on the freeway. You're doing 75, 78 miles per hour, and I knew I was gonna hit, so I immediately just tilt my head, like all the time. I knew where all the bumps were because I hit it every single time. Now with this seat, I don't have to worry about it. I can just do all of this, not a problem. My favorite part of all the modifications I've done so far. Last part for now is the Stratified Tune. I've been saying since the beginning of the video, I have a Stratified Tune, but I really haven't touched on it. The thing Stratify is popular for is their pops and bangs, and I wanted that. I kind of wanted that just to have it because it was fun. It's a little running joke with my wife, but it's like the riser thing to do, and I'm a riser, so I'm gonna do it. I ended up switching over to Stratify. I ended up getting their tune first. I mean, the cool thing about the Access Port is once you get it, you can go anywhere. You can get the Stratified Tune, you're not happy with them, go to JST, PandaWorks, whoever. Thinking eventually I am going to go to Fswerks just to have their tunes so I can see the differences. Maybe I can make a comparison video. But on the subject of Stratify, no complaints. I mean, the complaints I have are very minimal and they're easily fixable with an email, and I haven't done that. Why? Because they're not a big deal to me. So what I had, like I said, is a stage 3 tune, full bolt-ons. I do have a catted downpipe, 100 cell, so I did get the pops and bangs, but I got the progressive ones. I did not get the loud or extremely loud, whatever they call them. Just that's too much. I actually heard a car out there, an ST, with the loud pops and bangs, and he just did a drive-by, got off the gas, and he was just way too loud, way too obnoxious. Did not want to do that. Like I said, it's a daily driver for me. I'm with my wife in the car all the time, as it is. Sometimes, you know, for fun of it, I kind of step on it, let it go, pops and bangs go off, and she just turns around and looks at me like, really? So now imagine if I had the louds. But the main reason I didn't do it is not my wife. It's just I'm not into that much. I just like the burbles. I don't even like the pops. I actually like the burbles. I like when it burbles as you get off the gas and it doesn't pop. That's why I put the exhaust or the microphone on the exhaust for my videos, because I just like to hear that burble. If it was all burbles, no pops or bangs, I would love it. But it is what it is. So I have the progressives. I've been driving for I don't even know how long now, and as you've heard, or hopefully you can hear, not a single pop or bang that I didn't want to do. Right now, for example, I'm in 4th gear, doing about 40. If I wanted some pops, just get down, 3,000 RPM, there you go. Or I can step on it a little bit, let go of it, and there you go. They're going off like crazy. Now probably this Subi and the one behind me thinking I want to race, but not really. So yeah, very manageable. Just like that is the next day. My camera died. Didn't even know. Didn't notice. Actually, I did notice. Went back home, tried to record some more, and my microphone wasn't working. So that'll close out this video for now. I just wanted to talk about what the car had and all the things that I've done. Later on, I'll make a separate video on the Access Port, and I also have a video coming up for the airbag on the seat. I need to adjust it a little bit. I'm not sitting center, I'm sitting a little bit off to the left, so I still have to adjust it. When I do adjust it, I'm gonna go into more detail as far as the airbag light, how to get rid of that and all that stuff. So yeah, that'll be it for this video.